Okay, one more dress rehearsal for the Bears, the final preseason game. Only 3 this year, but they're treating it like the 4th one. So how are you going to watch this, Dan Wiederer from the Chicago Tribune? I'm Dionne Miller from ABC7. Dan, what are your thoughts heading into these final 4 quarters that don't count?
I'm going to watch it from the press box at Nissan Stadium in Nashville, Tennessee. This will be my first flight that is related to the Bears since the end of the 2019 season. This is a milestone.
That is
we cross back into territory of doing things like we used to do it. We've had a full month of doing that at training camp. But to your point, it's going to be fun to be there in person, to watch Justin Fields play the first half of this game, and then to just kind of take inventory. Over the years, I've gained an appreciation for this preseason finale. It used to be the 4th game. Now it's the 3rd game. It's hard to keep all this stuff straight in this new age. But just how cutthroat it can be, because you have so many guys who feel like this is their last chance to win a job, right? For that team, for the other 31 teams around the league. And so there's just an intensity to every play. The quality of football is not what it's going to be in the regular season. If you look at it through the lens of these guys who are clearly not going through the motions, there are some fun things to take inventory of in a final preseason game. And I expect it to be no different Saturday night.
If anyone has watched HBO's Hard Knocks for even 5 minutes, one episode, you see how much work is put in and then how much they are on edge waiting for that phone call to come or not come. I mean, as we learned, it's interesting to hear every guy's story who's been on that fringe and then not gotten the call. And like Tashaun Gipson telling us, he's like, my phone didn't ring and they told me when the team meeting was, and I had to ask, like, does that mean I made the team? Because you're hanging on for that opportunity, and the amount of effort that is put in through really hard camps, through hot temperatures. You're fighting so hard to prove that you belong among other guys who are so elite and we're drafted, we're brought in, as a veteran who have all this experience that you're trying to gain. This to me is why I appreciate that final preseason game too. And it gives me a reason to watch all 4 quarters, because there's always somebody out there who's really fighting and trying to impress.
We talked about Jason Peters in our last video, and it's funny to think back that he entered the league so long ago, as a tight end, right? And then he was converted into an offensive lineman. He actually got cut by the Buffalo Bills as a rookie and then put on their practice squad. And so you look back at a guy who's now 39, a 6-time All-Pro who might be going into Canton at some point, and you say, boy, that's a pretty cool rise, for a guy that on cuts weekend of his rookie year didn't make the 53-man roster and got cut. It was fun to listen to Tashaun Gipson the other day sort of detail his stories, because look, he's now a starter. He's a guy that gets that preseason finale off. He gets to stand over there in sweats and take it in. But you could hear his appreciation for what these younger guys have on the line in this game and how much he understands what this game means to so many guys. And you mentioned that story. Not only did he not get the call, but he was getting other calls, right? And this is a story that you hear from guys all the time throughout the years of every time their phone buzzes, their heart drops. And it's a moment of stress that is incomparable to pretty much anything they've experienced in life, waiting to know whether they made the team or got cut. And then, your mom calls and you're like, Mom, don't call me right now.
Don't call me right now, right?
The phone stresses me out, so don't do that. And then for Tashaun to say that he got a text message saying, be at the team meeting at 7 o'clock or whatever it was, and responding to the group thread saying, does this mean I made the team? And getting bombarded with messages being like, who is this? And like, what's going on? It's just a very real life behind the curtain look of what goes on for these guys. I talked to Josh Woods on this very topic this afternoon, and he was really interesting because I said, Josh, the one thing I've never been able to figure out in all my time covering the league is why isn't there someone? The NFL employs hundreds of people in their building. Why isn't there one guy designated to call the guys who made the team and tell them, hey, you made the team, right? Why does it always happen? Like he said when he made the team the one year, it was 2019. It was his second year in the league. He got the email from Matt Nagy's personal assistant with the itinerary for Green Bay week for the season opener, right? And he's like, what does this mean? I mean, this feels like it, like this feels like it's a good sign, but I mean, I made it. And I said, why don't they have someone that calls you and says, you're good, you made the team? And he says, I think these front office people actually get off on the edginess of keeping you on pins and needles all afternoon. And so maybe that's part of it. But you understand that typically in the past, it used to be Labor Day weekend, Saturday of Labor Day weekend when these cuts went down, and those guys would be in hell that entire day waiting to figure out if they made it or not. Now they've moved the cut date up. It'll be next Tuesday. So they won't have to sit on a weekend, but Tuesday and Monday will be stressful days for these guys on the bubble. And as we go to Tennessee this weekend, there are a handful of those guys that this last month you talk about and you say, boy, it would be really cool if that guy made the team. It's not a guarantee they don't make the team. Josh Woods is one of those guys. Another guy we talked to today, Rodney Adams. Cool story that guy has, right?
I mean, I could not be cheering harder for him to make the team. He's refreshing. His story is unbelievable. If you don't know about Rodney Adams, you need to go search everything that man has been through. And to have him have his daughter have these two magical moments in the preseason and make this a very tough decision in an incredibly competitive wide receiver room. I think he's an incredible story of perseverance and strength, and it's a beautiful thing, and you want to cheer for him, and his perspective is just also refreshing, right? He's I know that if I want to make the team here, but going through trying out during a pandemic, obviously it was very bizarre for him, and trying to replicate reps and audition for a team when nobody's really there and you can't talk to people, that to go through that, to work as hard as he did to get back to this point, and also recognizing that there are other teams that are watching. So the Bears are gonna have to make cuts, right? They're at 80, they got to get to 53. I'm so bad at math. I'll let you do the math, but that's a lot of guys that are going to be gone by Tuesday. 27. Okay. 27 guys. So they have to make up a practice squad, obviously, but for Nagy to say he and Pace look at that board every single day and they have a lot of talent that they know they're going to have to cut. Well, that's opportunity with other teams, that if they show out in this final preseason game, they're going to get calls. They're going to get an opportunity to latch on with somebody else. And that's the part of the NFL that we don't really pay attention to. We pay attention to the starters. We know who these guys are. We know their faces, but those ones that are on the fringe, this is a roller coaster of emotions. And for a lot of them, it's okay, well, I don't know what else I'm going to do if I don't play football. And they're pushing for this opportunity. They want it so badly. And that is something I can really wholeheartedly get behind.
Well, on the Rodney Adams front, since you brought it up, we'll bring our audience up to speed on that. He was out of football in 2018, 2019, stepped away from the game to try to take care of some things in his personal life, came back in 2020, about a year ago, a little bit more than a year ago, gets called up by the Bears to come out for a workout in Lake Forest. Well, this is in the training camp of COVID-19, where there were rules and restrictions and protocols and everything else. And so essentially he had to sequester in a hotel up near the Bears facility for 3 days, right? And we asked him, what did you do for those 3 days? And he said, literally all I did was sit in the room and watch HGTV, right?
I'm not mad. I'm not mad about that at all.
So for 3 days he does that. Then he gets a tryout, does well enough in the tryout to get a contract, then gets an opportunity to spend 2020 on the practice squad with the Bears, now gets an opportunity to make this football team, and then we get in the preseason. This year we have preseason games. And so when he scores on a 73-yard touchdown pass from Andy Dalton, when he catches a 25-yard pass up the sideline from Justin Fields, when you feel his presence on game day, now that gives Ryan Pace, Matt Nagy, and their staffs an ability to see this guy has a level of competitive tenacity. He's got a level of resilience. He's got an ability to fit on this football team. And now he goes into this final game in Tennessee saying, boy, I'm trying to box out the Riley Ridleys, Javon Wims of the world to win one of these roster spots, right? And if it's not here, maybe I'll go somewhere else. But it is intense. And I think Rodney had a good perspective of just saying, look, my daughter was born last weekend on Friday. You get 5 hours of sleep. You come out to Soldier Field, score a 73-yard touchdown. You feel the breath of having fatherhood as part of your life. And then you get a touchdown. He just seems to be in it right now, right? In the moment and loving it. And so to your point, you root for guys like that. And there's guys like that all throughout this locker room, all throughout the NFL. And some of them are going to have their hearts broken in the next 6 days.
Yeah, I totally agree. It is. It's devastating to put in all that work and then to have somebody say you're not ready or you're not good enough or you're not making this team. And you just, I can't even imagine sitting with that nervousness and anxiety waiting to hear if you got the call. But I agree with you. They should have someone who calls and says, I will volunteer to do that. That's the best news ever. That's when you get the call from the Hall of Fame. I want to do this in retirement. I want to knock on doors and say, welcome to Canton. I just think that would be so incredible. And just giving these guys a chance and saying you made the team, I think that would be the best job in the world.
Yeah, the worst job is telling them to come in and bring your iPad, right? We need to see you in a half an hour. And we need your iPad back as soon as possible. That's a terrible job. Telling them, hey, you made the NFL and you're on our roster for week one. That's a great gig.
It's magic. Yes, I would love to do that. If the Bears are looking, if any team is looking, I will happily call people and tell them they've made the team.
Dionne is versatile. She's always raising her hand for more work. And so listen up, George, Ryan, Matt, whoever else is up there in the hiring process, Ted, she wants to make the calls for you next week.
You need someone to deliver good news. I'm your girl. That's all I'm saying.
So, we talked at the outset of camp, before camp started, about how excited we were to have in-person interviews back. I can tell you a month later that I feel as invigorated as I thought I would be and more, because we're getting to more ground. We're getting to learn the personalities of these guys. We're getting to tell stories. We're getting to be back out there. This Rodney Adams story that we just talked about, the conversation with Tashaun Gipson that we referenced a little bit ago, this stuff didn't happen over Zoom. And so it's fun to be back in there and having human to human interaction and conversation. All of a sudden you start to learn more about these guys' stories, right? And this is what this is all about. It's finding these guys with cool stories to tell and hoping that they end with happy endings. And that's been a nice perk of the month of August to this point.
I could not agree more. The energy in the room, talking to someone in person, is so far better than over Zoom, and it gets some authenticity behind it that we didn't have before, getting a feel for these guys. I will tell you that Justin Fields on a Zoom post game is not the same as when you're in person, right? Like you can tell that comfort level in person. I don't know that we could do that over Zoom. And I think that's what's been so huge. And this week was monumental. Dan, we met some guys that were on the team last year that we had never ever laid eyes on. Jermaine Ifedi, I had never laid eyes on him. I couldn't have picked him out of a lineup. We had seen him on Zoom a couple times, but not in person. Like that was this is big, I feel like, for us, and to interact with these guys and see their personalities come out. It's awesome, and it bodes well for the way the season is going to unfold, in my opinion. So I'm really jazzed. It's coming. It's really coming. But I am all in to watch this final preseason game.
Get your popcorn ready. Settle in on the couch on Saturday night. There'll be a lot to watch, and we'll have a lot to break down next week. Again, cuts are coming Tuesday. So the roster is going to go from 80 to 53. I'm going to quiz you later on the math of that. We're going to see if you can carry the one, borrow from the tens place, whatever you need to do. Math with Dionne will be a segment here, and we'll do it weekly and see what we can come up with. Obviously, like this video, subscribe to our channel. The regular season's just around the corner, and the content's only going to get better. Am I right?
It's only going to get better. And Dan, before we go, I'd like to be the first to say you've made our team. We would like you to stick around. See, that felt really good. That felt really good.
God, I've been nervous all afternoon. I appreciate getting that news. Oh my God, that's the greatest news. That's the greatest news. Thank you for delivering it. See, that's the audition tape.
There it
George,
is.
Ted, Ryan, and Matt. There it is.
Nailed it.